The twin suns were setting over Velora, painting the sky in gold and violet. The floating islands drifted in quiet rhythm above an endless sea of clouds. Every island shimmered with crystal vines and glowing air roots that drank the wind. The people of this world, called the Velorans, lived among the peaks, tending their winged beasts known as Ikrans. Rin stood on the landing platform of a silver shuttle that had brought him from orbit. His flight jacket carried the faded symbol of the Human Expedition Corps. He had flown in storms, crossed asteroid fields, and guided damaged ships home through broken gravity. Yet now he stood on an alien cliff surrounded by laughter. Before him, a group of young Velorans prepared for their evening flight. Each rider wore light armor made of woven scale leaves. Their Ikrans perched nearby, bright feathers rippling in the wind. The creatures looked like a mixture of bird and dragon, elegant and proud, their wings catching the sunlight in rippling colors. Rin had come to learn. Humanity had entered the Veloran Alliance only a year ago, and Earth's pilots were curious about the ancient practice of sky bonding. The Velorans claimed their bond with the Ikran was not training but connection, a union between spirit and creature. They said machines could not understand it. Among the riders was Nara, a tall girl with bright teal markings across her face and sharp amber eyes. Her Ikran was smaller than the others but faster, with wings that shimmered silver. Nara was known among her people for her skill and pride. She looked at Rin with a playful grin that carried a hint of challenge. "So this is the human pilot," she said, folding her arms. "You control metal wings, but can you feel a living one?" Rin smiled politely. "I came to watch, maybe learn." Her friends chuckled. "Learn? Machines do not teach the sky," another said. Nara took a step closer. "If you are truly a pilot, then fly. Prove that you understand what it means to trust the air itself. Ride an Ikran. If you can do that, maybe humans do belong in the skies of Velora." The wind howled through the cliffs, carrying the sound of their laughter. Rin looked toward the nesting cliffs where hundreds of Ikrans rested. Their calls echoed like music. He had faced heavier challenges, yet something about their laughter made his heart beat faster. "All right," he said calmly. "Show me how it is done." The crowd grew quiet. Even Nara looked surprised. She had not expected him to accept. "Fine," she replied. "At dawn we go to the high cliffs. You will see what true flight means." That night, Rin stayed in a guest shelter built from stone and vines. He sat near the open window watching the twin moons rise. The air shimmered faintly with floating crystals. He thought about home, about the cold steel of ships and the hum of engines. Flight for humans meant numbers, instruments, and physics. Here it was something else. He remembered the look in Nara's eyes. She believed flying was not about control but trust. Maybe this challenge was not about pride but understanding. The next morning, mist rolled across the cliffs. The rising sun painted the clouds gold. Nara waited for him near the edge, her Ikran perched behind her. The creature's wings spread wide, brushing against the light. "Are you ready, human?" she asked. Rin nodded. "Teach me." She gestured toward a narrow path leading down the side of the mountain. "The Ikrans choose their riders. If one accepts you, it will bow. If not, it will ignore you. Do not fear them. They sense fear." He followed her carefully. The wind grew stronger, carrying the smell of salt and storm. Hundreds of Ikrans nested along the cliffs, their eyes glowing in shades of orange and blue. Some spread their wings to warm in the sunlight. Others screeched softly, warning him to stay away. Nara watched him from above. "Remember, they feel what you feel. Be calm." Rin closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. He stepped closer to one of the smaller creatures. It hissed and snapped its wings, driving him back. Another turned away, unimpressed. The others laughed again, but he stayed focused. He walked slowly among them, hands open, heart steady. He did not speak. He simply listened to the rhythm of the wind and matched his breathing to it. His years as a pilot had taught him patience. In flight, panic meant failure. Calm meant control. Then he noticed one Ikran standing apart. It was larger than the rest, its wings marked with streaks of deep gold. Its gaze followed him, curious but cautious. Rin stopped several paces away. The creature tilted its head, studying him. The wind shifted. A low hum echoed through the cliffs. Rin took one slow step forward. The Ikran spread its wings, stirring dust into the air. He lowered himself slightly and raised a hand. "I am Rin," he said quietly, his voice steady. "I seek the sky." The creature's golden eyes blinked. Its feathers rippled in the breeze. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, with slow grace, the Ikran lowered its head. Gasps came from above. Nara's eyes widened. No human had ever received such a response. Rin felt his heart surge. He placed his hand gently on the creature's neck. The skin was warm and alive, pulsing with energy like a living engine. The Ikran let out a deep rumble that echoed through the cliffside. "You see," Nara called down, trying to hide her surprise. "It does not mean you can fly it." "The bond must be tested," Rin nodded. "Then let it be tested." He climbed onto the creature's back carefully, gripping the natural ridges behind its neck. The Ikran shifted its wings, testing his balance. The wind whistled through the gaps in the cliff. Nara leapt onto her own Ikran and circled above him. "Follow if you can," she called. "The sky is not gentle." With a sharp cry, her Ikran launched upward, slicing through the air. Rin's Ikran responded instinctively. It spread its massive wings and leapt from the cliff. The ground dropped away. The force of the wind pressed against his chest. For a moment, fear struck him like cold water. Then the rhythm of flight took over. The Ikran glided effortlessly, wings cutting through the air like a living blade. Rin leaned forward, letting the wind carry him. The creature seemed to understand every slight movement. When he tilted, it turned. When he braced, it rose. He could feel the living pulse beneath him, strong and wild. Nara looked back and saw him following. Her surprise turned into admiration. Few riders, even among her people, adapted so quickly. She guided her Ikran into a spiral through a ring of floating rocks. Rin followed, matching her turns. The air shimmered with electric light as the twin suns rose higher. They flew through clouds that glowed silver from within. For the first time in his life, Rin felt pure freedom. There were no engines, no metal walls, no instruments. Only the wind, the creature, and the endless sky. After a long flight, they landed on a high plateau surrounded by waterfalls. Mist sparkled in the air. The Ikrans folded their wings and rested. Nara approached, breathing hard but smiling. "I did not think you would make it," she admitted. "Most who try fall before the first turn." Rin smiled gently. "Your sky teaches faster than any simulator." She laughed softly. "You may not understand the bond yet, but you did not fear it." "That is a start." They sat on the rocks, watching the light move across the clouds. Nara asked about human flight, and Rin told her about engines, fuel, and the silence of space. She listened with wonder. "Your ships sound powerful," she said, "but they have no heart." "They have the hearts of those who fly them," he answered. "A pilot gives a ship its courage." She nodded slowly, considering his words. Maybe courage is what both our kinds share. As they returned to the village, others gathered to see them. When the people learned that the Ikran had accepted Rin, the crowd fell silent. The elder riders spoke among themselves. For generations, no outsider had ever ridden one. That evening, as the sun sank beyond the horizon, the sky glowed in shades of red and gold. The Valorans sang their flight songs while Rin stood beside Nara. Her expression had changed. The mocking smile from before was replaced by quiet respect. "You have proven something today," she said. "Not only to me, but to my people." Rin looked toward the sky where his Ikran rested peacefully. "I have proven that learning never ends." The elder of the riders stepped forward, carrying a crystal feather. He placed it in Rin's hand. "This is a sign that the sky has seen you," he said. "But remember, one flight does not make a bond. Tomorrow the storm season begins. Then we will see what kind of pilot you truly are." The crowd cheered softly. Nara smiled again, but this time with warmth instead of challenge. Rin nodded respectfully. As night fell, the stars reflected on the clouds below, forming rivers of light. Rin watched them from the cliff's edge. He thought of the Ikran's eyes, the feeling of the wind, and the strange connection that had grown in one single flight. He finally understood why the Valorans called it a bond of spirit. Machines followed commands, but living wings followed trust. The air grew cooler, carrying the distant hum of thunder. Far on the horizon, lightning flashed faintly inside the forming clouds. The elder's words echoed in his mind. The storm season was coming. The real test had yet to begin. Rin smiled to himself, not from pride but from peace. For the first time, he felt that flying was not just about reaching the sky. It was about becoming part of it. The next morning came with deep clouds hanging low over Velora's islands. The wind carried a strange warmth that hinted at the coming storm season. The Ikrans cried across the valleys, restless and uneasy. Every rider knew this time of year tested not only skill but heart. Rin stood near the edge of the main cliff, his jacket fluttering against the rising wind. The golden-winged Ikran he had met the day before perched beside him. Its name, Nara told him, was Ikran, which meant heart of the sky. Nara approached carrying a small bundle of fruit wrapped in leaf cloth. "You should eat before we begin," she said. "Today you must learn how to speak with your Ikran." Rin smiled gently. "Speak, you mean through sound?" She shook her head. "Through trust. Through calm thoughts. Through the rhythm of your breath." He nodded. "Then teach me." They sat on the ground near the resting creature. The air shimmered with a faint silver mist. Nara placed her hand on her Ikran's neck and gestured for Rin to do the same. "Close your eyes," she said softly. "Do not think of flying. Do not think of control. Think only of balance. Feel the breath of the sky moving through you." Rin followed her instructions. At first he felt nothing but the wind brushing against his face. Then slowly, he noticed the faint pulse beneath his hand, strong and steady. It matched the rhythm of his own heartbeat. When he slowed his breathing, the Ikran's pulse seemed to respond. "You are listening," Nara said. "That is the first step. The Ikran knows your heart before it knows your name. It will test you until it trusts that you mean no harm." Rin opened his eyes. The creature's golden eyes were fixed on him. There was no fear in them, only curiosity. He lowered his voice and spoke with gentle confidence. "Ikran, I am not your master. I am your partner." The Ikran let out a low hum that echoed softly through the stones. Nara's lips curved into a faint smile. "It has accepted your presence again. That is rare. You are beginning to understand the bond." For the next few hours they practiced movement. Nara guided him through hand signals used by riders to communicate during flight. Each gesture carried meaning: rise, dive, turn, slow, steady. Rin learned quickly. His years as a pilot had trained his reflexes well, but now he needed to match that skill with emotion. "You are too exact," she said at one point, laughing softly. "You move like a machine. Let the wind move through you. Let your body answer to it." He laughed back. "Machines never taught me that." By midday, clouds began to thicken over the horizon. The elder riders gathered near the cliff to inspect their Ikrans. Some creatures hissed nervously, wings twitching. The sky darkened with shades of green and gray. Nara looked up. "The storm comes faster than we thought. We must train before the lightning fields grow strong." They led the Ikrans to the open plains above the village. The ground was covered in soft moss that glowed faintly blue. As they reached the center, a low rumble rolled across the valley. The first winds of the storm season had arrived. Nara turned to Rin. "This is the moment where riders test their bond. During a storm, an Ikran follows instinct. If it trusts you, it will not flee. If it doubts you, it will throw you aside and fly to safety." Rin looked toward the sky, watching the clouds twist into heavy spirals. He felt no fear, only the familiar calm that came before a dangerous flight. "Then we trust each other," he said. They mounted their Ikrans. The wind whipped against their faces as they rose into the air. The world below became a sea of mist. Lightning flickered within the clouds like veins of fire. Rin guided Ikran higher, keeping close to Nara. The Ikran moved with power and grace, yet Rin could sense its growing tension. Each gust of wind pushed harder. He adjusted his balance, lowering his body close to its neck, whispering softly, "Steady. You are not alone." A sudden blast of wind struck from the side, sending them off balance. Rin gripped the ridges and leaned with the creature, letting the movement carry them instead of resisting it. Ikran steadied itself with a powerful beat of its wings. Nara called out from ahead, "Good. You are learning to move with the storm, not against it." They flew for what felt like hours, tracing patterns through the rising winds. Rin learned to read the air currents, feeling each shift before it came. He noticed how Ikran anticipated his movements, tilting and diving in perfect timing. They were beginning to move as one. As the clouds thickened, flashes of light danced across the horizon. Nara raised her hand, signaling to return. They landed on a sheltered platform built into the side of the mountain. The elder riders waited, their expressions serious. One of them, an older Valoran named Elar, stepped forward. His silver hair glowed faintly in the stormlight. "The human rides well," he said. "Perhaps the bond is real after all." Nara bowed respectfully. "He learns fast." Elar studied Rin carefully. "Tomorrow the storm will reach its height. The winds will turn wild. That is when you will know if your bond can survive." That night, the rain began to fall. Rin sat inside the stone shelter watching droplets slide down the crystal windows. Nara sat across from him, sharpening her flight gear with a smooth stone. "You are quiet," she said. "I am thinking," he replied. "In my world, storms mean danger. Here they mean a test," she nodded. "Our ancestors believed the sky speaks through storms. If you can hear it and not break, you become part of it." Rin smiled faintly. "Then I will listen." When morning came, the entire world seemed alive with thunder. The air shook with energy. Even the ground hummed beneath their feet. The riders gathered at the cliff edge, faces calm but eyes alert. The Ikran spread their wings against the wind, ready for flight. Elar raised his staff. "The storm has come. Only those who trust their bond may ride today." Nara mounted her Ikran. Rin followed, adjusting the strap on his harness. The moment his hand touched Arikan's neck, he felt a deep vibration travel through his body. It was not fear. It was a call to rise. With a single leap, the Ikrans launched into the sky. The wind hit like a living wall, forcing them sideways. Rain lashed against their faces, but they kept climbing. "Stay close," Nara shouted over the roar. Rin nodded, focusing on the rhythm of Arikan's wings. The creature's movements were strong and steady. Together they dove between swirling gusts and curved around bursts of lightning that lit the clouds from within. He felt the pulse again, the same rhythm as before, only stronger. It was as if his heartbeat and Arikan's had become one. Suddenly, a powerful current rose beneath them. The Ikran tilted upward sharply, nearly throwing Rin from his seat. He leaned forward, pressing his body close. "Trust me," he whispered. "We can do this." Arikan steadied, wings stretching wide. They cut through the wind and reached the upper layer of clouds where the air glowed blue from the electric charge. The light reflected off the creature's feathers like molten gold. Nara circled back beside him, her face shining with rain. "You are truly flying now," she shouted. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The storm surrounded them, but inside that chaos there was peace. Rin understood why the Valorans loved the sky. It was alive, unpredictable, and beautiful. As they descended toward the cliffs, the storm began to ease. The rain softened to a gentle mist. They landed side by side, soaked but unharmed. The other riders cheered. Elar stepped forward once again. "The human has passed the storm flight," he said. "His bond is real. He rides not with command, but with trust." Nara looked at Rin with pride. "You have earned the sky's respect," she said. "Few do so on their first storm." Rin smiled modestly. "I only followed what you taught me." "You listened," she said. "That is rarer than skill." They walked together toward the village as the clouds began to part. The air smelled of fresh rain and glowing moss. Children ran along the paths, chasing the falling droplets that turned to light as they hit the ground. When they reached the resting grounds, Nara's Ikran nudged her shoulder gently while Arikan lowered its head beside Rin. The creature's golden eyes seemed calmer now, filled with quiet recognition. Rin placed his hand against its neck once more. "Thank you," he whispered. That evening the Valorans held a small celebration. The riders sang songs that told stories of ancient pilots who had become one with the sky. Rin listened with deep respect. The melodies carried through the air like the beating of wings. When the songs ended, Nara approached him holding a crystal pendant shaped like a small wing. She placed it around his neck. "This is a sign of the bond," she said. "You are now part of the riders of Valora." Rin bowed slightly. "It is an honor." "The storm season has only begun," she warned gently. "There are still greater tests ahead. The next one will not test your courage. It will test your heart." He met her gaze calmly. "Then I will be ready." As the night deepened, Rin stood once more at the edge of the cliff. The stars returned, shining bright above the clearing sky. Arikan rested nearby, wings folded. The air was calm again, filled with the soft hum of distant thunder far below. For the first time since he arrived on this world, Rin felt that he belonged. The laughter that once mocked him had turned into respect. The alien sky that once seemed strange now felt like home. He closed his eyes, breathing in the clean scent of rain and wind. The bond between human and Ikran was real, born not of power but of trust. Somewhere behind him, Nara watched quietly, smiling to herself. Tomorrow, new challenges would rise. But tonight, the sky was his friend. Morning light poured across the floating islands of Valora, painting every surface in gold. The storm season had ended for now, leaving the air calm but charged with a soft, living energy. The sky stretched endlessly, filled with drifting crystals that caught the sunlight like stars. Rin stood on the high cliff beside Ikran. The Ikran's golden wings reflected the morning light. Around them, other riders prepared for a special day. The annual Flight of Unity was about to begin. It was a celebration where riders from every island met in the open sky to honor peace between clans. For the first time, a human had been invited to take part. Nara approached wearing light sky armor made from polished shell plates. Her long braid was tied with white feathers. She smiled as she saw Rin checking the straps on his harness. "You look ready," she said. He nodded. "I have been waiting for this." "You will be flying among the best riders of Velora," she reminded him. "They do not know your bond yet. You must show them what you have learned." Rin glanced toward the horizon. "I am not here to prove myself," he said. "I am here to learn their way." Nara tilted her head, studying his calm face. "That is why you might surprise them." The elder Elar stepped forward and raised his staff. His voice carried across the cliffs. "Today, the riders of Velora and our human guest will fly as one. Let this day remind us that every being who respects the sky becomes part of it." Dozens of Ikrans stretched their wings. The air filled with a deep humming sound as their feathers caught the wind. Rin felt Ikran move beneath him, eager to rise. At Elar's signal, the first wave of riders leaped from the cliff. The creatures dived sharply before catching the wind and soaring upward. Nara looked at Rin and nodded once. "Fly true." Rin smiled and leaned forward. "Ready, Ikran?" The Ikran gave a short call and leaped. The force of the jump pushed Rin's heart against his chest. Wind rushed past as they fell. Then the wings spread wide and the drop turned into flight. The world opened before them, an ocean of air and light. Nara's silver-winged Ikran flew beside him. Together they glided toward the horizon where other riders formed swirling patterns in the sky. Their movements were like a dance, graceful and full of purpose. Rin followed the rhythm, remembering every lesson Nara had taught him. Each motion had meaning. A tilt of the hand meant rise. A lean of the shoulder meant turn. The Ikran responded with perfect harmony, as if it could feel his thoughts. Below them, the floating islands shimmered like jewels on a silver sea. Waterfalls fell into the clouds, vanishing in mist. Birds with crystal wings flew alongside them for a moment before veering away. Nara looked across at him. "You move like one of us now," she said with a smile. Rin grinned. Maybe the sky has a little room for humans after all. Their flight continued toward the center of the valley where the great air pillars rose. These were natural towers of wind that carried riders higher than any current. It was said that above them, the air shimmered with light strong enough to touch the stars. Elar's voice echoed through the communication crystals worn by each rider. "Fly through the pillars and rise together. The one who reaches the highest point will carry the song of peace this year." Nara's eyes sparkled. "That song is sung by the rider who shows the most unity with the sky. It is an honor among our people." Rin nodded, though his focus was already on the swirling air columns ahead. The pillars looked calm from a distance, but as they approached, he could see the rippling currents twisting upward like living streams. Nara gestured. "Follow my lead." She guided her Ikran into the nearest pillar. The wind pushed them upward with incredible force. Rin followed, leaning into the current. Ikran responded instantly, wings folding slightly to reduce resistance. They shot upward like arrows. The air roared around them. Rin felt the strain in his arms, but also the steady rhythm of Ikran's heartbeat beneath him. The creature's movements were powerful but controlled. They climbed higher and higher until the other riders looked like small dots below. At the top, they broke through the last layer of cloud. The world above was breathtaking. The air shimmered in colors of gold and blue. Far above, the stars were visible even in daylight. Nara gasped. "You have reached the sky crown," she said. "Few riders come this far." Rin looked around, amazed by the stillness. "It feels like flying through light itself." They hovered side by side, surrounded by quiet beauty. Then a sudden gust struck from the north, shaking them both. Rin steadied Ikran quickly, but Nara's Ikran struggled to keep balance. "Hold steady," he called. "I can manage," she said, but the wind grew stronger. Her Ikran dipped lower, caught by a twisting current. Rin leaned forward. "Ikran, follow her movement." They dived smoothly, cutting through the turbulence. Rin reached out his hand toward her as their Ikrans aligned. "Use the lower current. Let it carry you out of the spiral," he shouted. Nara followed his guidance. Her Ikran caught the softer air below and leveled out. Together they rose again, steady and safe. She turned to him, smiling with relief. "You understand the wind better than I expected," Rin replied simply. "I listened to it." When they rejoined the others, the elder riders nodded with approval. The crowd watching from below cheered as Rin and Nara circled the sky in perfect formation. Elar raised his voice once more. "Today the human pilot has proven that the sky speaks one language. Trust. He shall carry the song of peace." Nara clapped her hands in celebration. "You did it," she said. Rin shook his head modestly. "We did it together." The ceremony began as they landed on a wide platform made of crystal stone. Musicians played instruments that sounded like wind and water mixed together. The riders stood in a circle while Elar handed Rin a glowing feather carved from light crystal. "This represents harmony," the elder said. "You may sing the first line." Rin hesitated. "I do not know your song." Nara whispered the words softly so he could repeat them. The melody was gentle and carried far into the open sky. When Rin sang the line, his voice joined with the others, blending perfectly with the rhythm of the wind. As the song filled the air, Ikran spread its wings and released a bright echoing call that rang across the islands. The light of the suns reflected off its feathers, creating a rainbow arc above them. Children pointed upward in wonder. Even the oldest riders smiled. After the ceremony, the crowd gathered around Rin. Many Valorans asked about Earth and the machines humans used to fly. Rin explained in simple words how humans had reached the stars not by power alone, but by courage and cooperation. One young rider said, "Maybe one day our Ikrans will fly beside your ships." Rin smiled kindly. "Maybe one day they will." As the sun began to set, the crowd dispersed. The sky turned orange and pink. Nara and Rin stood together near the edge of the platform watching the light fade. "You carried the song well," she said. "I only followed your rhythm," he replied. She laughed softly. "You always find a way to make the sky sound like a teacher." "It teaches better than I do," he said with a small smile. They watched as the last rays of sunlight vanished beyond the clouds. Then Nara looked toward the north where the darker horizon shimmered faintly. "The storm lines are returning," she said quietly. "Another wave is forming sooner than expected. If it reaches the valley, the lower nests will be in danger." Rin turned to her. "Can we help?" "We will try."
"The elders will decide tomorrow," she answered.
"But the winds are stronger than before. Even our best riders fear them." Rin looked thoughtful. "Then we will have to be better." She met his gaze. "You mean we?" he nodded. "Yes, we." That night the wind began to hum again across the islands. Rin could not sleep. He stood outside the shelter, watching lightning far away beyond the horizon. Ikran rested nearby, eyes half closed, wings folded like golden sails. He walked closer and placed his hand on its neck. The Ikran lifted its head, giving a soft sound like a quiet breath. "Tomorrow may test us again," Rin said. "But we will fly through it." The creature blinked slowly as if understanding. From her nearby shelter, Nara watched in silence. She saw how Rin moved around the Ikran with calm respect, never as a master but as a partner. She smiled to herself, realizing that this human had already changed how her people saw flight. When dawn came, the horizon was dark once more. The storm clouds rose high, swirling with green and purple light. The elders gathered on the main platform. Elar's voice was firm. "The storm line will pass through the southern ridge. We must guide the Ikrans away before it reaches them." Nara volunteered first. "I will lead the flight." Rin stepped forward beside her. "I will come with you." Some elders looked uncertain. "The human has not faced the full storm line," one said. Elar raised his hand. "He has faced the sky and earned its trust. He may go." The riders began preparing. Harnesses were tightened. Crystals were fastened. The Ikrans called to one another in echoing tones that filled the valley. The air trembled with the sound of wings. Rin climbed onto Ikran. The wind already tugged at his hair and clothes. Nara mounted her silver Ikran beside him. "Ready?" she asked. "Always," he replied. With a single leap they took to the air once again, flying toward the rising storm. The light of dawn painted their wings as they climbed higher. Below them, the people of Vylora watched in awe. A human and a Valoran were flying side by side into the heart of the storm. It was not a challenge anymore. It was trust in its purest form. Dark clouds covered the horizon like a great moving wall. The wind sang through the crystal peaks of Velora, deep and heavy. Everyone on the floating islands could feel the change. The calm days were ending again. The storm line was returning with full power. Rin stood beside his Ikran on the main platform. Lightning flashed far away, lighting up the edges of the clouds. The air smelled of rain and energy. Riders were preparing their harnesses while the elders studied the sky with concern. Nara tightened the strap on her own Ikran and turned to him. "The storm will cross the lower nests soon," she said. "We must guide the young Ikrans to safety before the winds pull them away." Rin nodded. "Tell me what to do." She pointed toward the southern ridge where the clouds churned like ocean waves. "You will fly with me. We will lead them through the East Pass and keep them above the water layer. If the wind breaks, stay close to the mountain walls." Elder Elar approached, leaning on his staff. "The human pilot has earned our trust," he said. "But this storm is different. It carries the breath of Kirill. It changes direction without warning. Do not fight it. Feel it." Rin placed his hand on Arikan's neck. The creature lifted its head proudly, golden feathers shining even under the dark sky. "We will do our best," he said. As thunder rolled closer, the riders mounted their Ikrans. The moment Elar raised his hand, a deep sound filled the air, the call to flight. Wings spread wide, claws gripped the edge, and then the sky broke open with motion. They launched together into the growing wind. The islands below blurred under rain and mist. Rin leaned forward, feeling the pull of the storm through every breath. Arikan moved smoothly, following his balance with perfect timing. Nara's silver Ikran flew beside him, its wings catching flashes of light. "Keep formation," she shouted through the communication crystal. "The young riders follow our lead." Behind them, a group of smaller Ikrans struggled against the wind. The storm pressed hard, pushing them sideways. Rin adjusted his path, lowering Arikan's wing to create a pocket of calm air. Two young riders slipped into his wake, finding balance again. "Good," Nara called. "You are guiding them like a wind wall." Rain fell harder now, each drop bright with energy. The clouds around them pulsed with blue light. Lightning raced between the upper layers like living rivers. Arikan let out a strong cry that cut through the thunder. Rin steadied his breathing. "We are one with the air," he whispered to himself. "Feel the rhythm." They reached the lower ridge where the young nests clung to the rock ledges. The baby Ikrans cried, wings folded tight. The riders who had stayed behind waved frantically. The storm was coming faster than expected. Nara gestured toward the nests. "We must lead them out now." Rin guided Arikan downward. The wind twisted wildly, shaking the cliffs. He saw the small creatures trying to fly but falling back each time. He motioned for one of the caretakers to release them together. "They will follow the adults," he said. The caretaker nodded and opened the barriers. The young Ikrans leaped, flapping hard. Nara circled above, calling to them in her native tongue. Arikan answered with a deep call, drawing their attention upward. One by one, the young ones began to rise. Rin and Nara flew in wide arcs around them, keeping the formation tight. Every turn, every shift of weight mattered. The wind fought them, but the bond between rider and creature held steady. As they climbed, the rain thickened. The world turned gray. Lightning flashed so close it felt like the air itself was breaking apart. Nara's voice came through the crystal again. "The East Pass is closing. We must go higher," Rin nodded. "Follow me." He guided Arikan toward a narrow spiral path of rising wind. It was dangerous, but it was the only way to clear the storm wall. He felt the pressure build against his chest, heavy and powerful. Yet Arikan never faltered. The creature's wings cut through the turbulence with precision. Nara followed close behind. The younger riders trusted them completely now. Together they climbed through the storm layers, each one darker than the last. At last they broke through the upper barrier. The sudden calm was almost unreal. The world above the storm stretched wide and peaceful, with sunlight shining on the clouds below. The contrast made Rin catch his breath. Nara laughed softly through the communicator. "You see why we love the sky? Even in chaos there is beauty waiting above it," Rin smiled. "It feels like another world." Below them, the swirling clouds glowed with lightning. The young Ikrans glided safely now, wings steady. The riders cheered through the crystals, their voices full of relief. But then Elar's voice came through sharply. "The northern current has shifted. The storm is splitting. A second wave is forming near the valley. The elders' nests are in its path." Nara looked at Rin. "That valley is close to the village. Without hesitation, Rin turned Arikan toward the north. We have to reach it before the second wave. She followed without question. The other riders continued guiding the young Ikrans to safety, while Rin and Nara dove through the upper clouds. The air grew heavy again, thick with moisture and light. Below, the valley shimmered under a web of electric clouds. The storm there spun faster, pulling up loose stones and branches from the floating cliffs. Rin leaned closer to Arikan. We will hold steady. The wind will test us. They entered the storm's heart. The pressure shook every part of their bodies, but Rin kept his movements calm. Each breath matched Arikan's pulse. Together they moved like one body. They circled the valley, calling to the elder Ikrans that had not yet left. Slowly, one by one, the creatures began to respond. Nara's voice carried through the noise, guiding them toward the higher ridge. Elar's voice came again. The human and Nara are holding the formation. The nests are safe. Pull back when you can. Rin checked the sensors on his wrist crystal. The air current was still unstable. If they left too soon, the lower nest could collapse from the returning gusts. We need to balance the flow, he said. Arikan can hold the center for a while. Nara circled back. You will be caught if it shifts again. He shook his head. Then we will shift with it. She understood. The two riders formed opposite sides of a spiral path, flying in sync. Their Ikrans beat their wings at perfect intervals, creating counterpressure that softened the storm's rotation. Slowly, the violent pull began to ease. The other riders watched from the ridge as the storm calmed. It was a display of pure harmony. Even the elders, who had seen 100 storm seasons, stood in awe. When the last of the lightning faded, Rin and Nara climbed out of the valley. The sky opened once more. Rain fell gently now, washing the air clean. As they landed on the main platform, cheers rose from the riders. The elders stepped forward. Elar's eyes shone with pride. The human pilot and the daughter of Velora have done what no stormward has done before. They have turned the fury of the sky into peace. Nara smiled at Rin. You trusted the storm. That is what makes you one of us. Rin bowed slightly. The sky only needed someone to listen. That evening, the storm lights faded and the islands glowed under a calm moon. The riders gathered around a great fire crystal in the village center. Music filled the air once more, lighter this time, joyful. Children ran around Arikan, touching its wings with curiosity. The creature lowered its head gently so they could see the shining patterns in its feathers. Nara watched them and laughed. Even the young ones see it now. You are part of Velora, Rin smiled quietly. I came as a guest. Now I feel like I found a home. Elar stepped forward, holding a small pendant shaped like a wing of light. This marks the sky bond, he said. It is given only to those who ride with both courage and heart. He placed it around Rin's neck. The crowd cheered again. The air seemed to hum with happiness. As the night deepened, Rin and Nara walked to the cliff edge overlooking the glowing sea of clouds. The air was calm, filled with faint sparks from the last of the storm. Nara looked up at the stars. When the next season comes, we will fly beyond the islands. The elders want to explore the outer clouds where no one has flown before. Will you join us? Rin met her gaze. If the sky allows, I will be there. Arikan stirred behind them, wings opening slightly as if answering the promise. They stood together in silence for a moment, watching lightning fade far below. The bond between them, between human and Veloran, between pilot and creature, had become something greater than anyone had imagined. Far above, the stars shone brighter. The wind carried a soft tone, almost like a song. It was the voice of the sky, calm and clear after the storm. For the first time, Velora and Earth shared that same peace. The flight that had started as a challenge had become a bridge between worlds. The days after the great storm were calm and bright. The floating islands of Velora glowed under a clear blue sky. Every surface sparkled from the soft mist left behind. Flowers that only bloomed after the storm opened their golden petals, and the air carried a clean scent of rain and crystal dust. For the first time in many weeks, the riders rested. The Ikrans perched quietly on the cliffs, wings folded and eyes half closed. They had faced the strongest winds of the season and survived. The people of Velora sang songs of gratitude to the sky. Rin walked through the village path with light steps. Wherever he went, the Velorans greeted him with warm smiles. Some bowed their heads, others placed a hand over their hearts. It still felt strange to him. This kindness from a people who had once laughed at him for being a human pilot. Nara met him near the edge of the high platform where the crystal fire burned softly. She carried 2 cups of sweet fruit water and handed one to him. "You are becoming famous here," she said with a small smile. Rin laughed quietly. "I am just someone who listened to the wind." "Maybe," she replied, "but you also changed what my people believe. For years we thought only those born under this sky could bond with an Ikran. Now they know otherwise." He took a sip from his cup. The drink tasted like honey mixed with cool rain. "Then maybe this is proof that the sky belongs to all who respect it." Nara nodded. "You speak like an elder already." They sat together on a smooth stone bench carved into the cliff. Below them, the sea of clouds rolled in gentle waves. Far away, lightning flickered softly inside the horizon, not as a threat but as part of the endless rhythm of the world. Rin looked at his pendant, the small crystal wing Elar had given him. It glowed faintly whenever the wind shifted. "What does it mean exactly?" he asked. "You said it marks the sky bond, but I feel something more." Nara touched her own pendant. "It means you carry the trust of both sky and people. It is a promise. Wherever you go, you remember the connection that was made here." Rin smiled. "Then I will keep it close." Their peaceful talk was interrupted by a soft sound. A group of young riders ran toward them, carrying a small communication crystal. One of them bowed quickly. "Elder Elar requests your presence in the High Hall. There is news from orbit." Rin exchanged a curious look with Nara. "From orbit?" The young rider nodded. "A ship from Earth is approaching. It brings visitors from your world." The news spread fast. Within minutes, riders gathered on the viewing platform. The sky above shimmered as a silver shape broke through the upper clouds. The ship glided smoothly, leaving a trail of light behind it. Its design was sleek and polished, the mark of human engineering. Rin's heart lifted at the sight. It had been many months since he had seen anything made by his own people. The ship circled once before slowing near the landing area. The ramp opened and 3 figures stepped out wearing the dark uniforms of the Human Expedition Corps. The lead officer saluted him with a smile. "Pilot Rin, we finally found you." Rin returned the salute, though his movements felt slower, more peaceful than before. "It has been a long journey," he said. The officer looked around in wonder at the floating islands and glowing air vines. "So this is Velora. Command has been receiving your reports, but seeing it in person is something else." Nara approached and bowed respectfully. "Welcome to our world," she said.
"I am Nara of the Veloran Sky Riders." The officer smiled back.
"It is an honor. We heard much about your people's skill and about the man who rode your Ikran." Rin gave a small laugh. "You will make her proud if you keep saying that." The humans and Velorans shared a meal that evening. The air filled with light music and gentle laughter. Stories were exchanged between the 2 cultures. The officers were amazed by the bond between the riders and their Ikrans. They listened closely as Rin and Nara described how trust replaced control, how instinct replaced machinery. When night came, the guests from Earth looked up at the sky in quiet awe. "It feels alive," one of them said. Nara nodded. "It always is." Later that night, as the celebrations faded, Elar called Rin and Nara to the High Hall. The room was lit by floating crystal orbs that pulsed softly like heartbeats. Elar looked serious but calm. "Tomorrow there will be one final flight," he said. "The Council of Worlds wishes to see the bond between our people and yours. They will watch from orbit. It will be a symbol of unity." Rin nodded respectfully. "We will fly," Nara agreed. "It will be an honor." The elder placed his hands on their shoulders. "This flight will not be a test. It will be a message. Fly high, but fly together." The next morning the sun rose over clear skies. The air was still and bright, perfect for flight. Riders from every island gathered near the cliffs. The guest from Earth stood among them, watching with anticipation. Ikran stood ready, wings outstretched. The golden light reflected from its feathers made it look like a living flame. Nara's silver Ikran stood beside it, calm and graceful. Rin turned to her. "Are you ready?" She smiled. "Always." Elar raised his staff and the crowd fell silent. "Today the sky welcomes both human and Veloran as one. Let their flight remind us that understanding can bridge any world." At his signal, Rin and Nara leaped into the air. Their Ikrans plunged downward before catching the wind. The audience below cheered as the 2 creatures rose higher and higher. their wings cutting through the bright morning air. They flew in wide circles around each other, their movements perfectly timed. The sunlight turned their trails into glowing arcs. From above, they looked like two comets dancing across the blue. Rin felt every motion of Ikran as if it were part of him. The wind against his face was gentle, steady. He looked over at Nara and saw the joy in her eyes. "The sky accepts us both," she shouted. He smiled back. "It always did." They rose through the upper layers of the atmosphere where the air turned thin and the light shimmered with colors unseen on the surface. The clouds stretched below them in endless waves. Nara pointed upward. "There, above that layer, the human ship waits." Rin nodded. "Let them see." They guided their Ikrans higher. The blue turned into deep indigo. The stars became visible, scattered across the dark sky. The human ship hung above like a small sun, its engines silent. Inside the ship, cameras recorded every movement. The images would be sent across many worlds as proof of friendship. Rin and Nara flew side by side, then slowly brought their Ikrans together until the tips of their wings touched. A bright light burst from the contact point, spreading in a wide circle that shimmered across the upper sky. It was the natural energy of their creatures reacting to the bond. From the ground, people gasped as the entire sky lit with golden and silver waves. The two riders looked like small figures against a living ocean of light. Elar watched from the platform and smiled. "They have given the sky a new story," he said. When the flight ended, Rin and Nara guided their Ikrans back to the island. The crowd welcomed them with cheers that filled the air. The children ran forward, waving glowing ribbons. The visitors from Earth applauded with deep respect. The lead officer approached Rin. "You showed us something no machine can copy. The council will honor both of you for this." Rin shook his head. "Honor belongs to all who fly with heart." Nara placed her hand over her chest. "And to those who listen to the wind." That evening, the ceremony of unity began. The elders, the human officers, and the riders gathered under the stars. A great crystal stood in the center, glowing softly. Elar spoke to the crowd. "Today we have witnessed proof. The sky does not belong to one world or one people. It belongs to all who respect its song. Let this day be remembered as the first flight of unity." He turned to Rin and Nara. "You are now sky envoys of Vylora. Carry this bond wherever you go." Rin bowed deeply. "I will carry it with honor." The crowd began to sing the song of peace once more. The sound rose and blended with the hum of the wind. It was soft and full of hope. As the night continued, Rin stood at the cliff again, looking up at the stars. Nara joined him quietly. "Do you miss your world?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "I miss the people, but I have found another home here. When I first came, I thought flying was only about machines and control. Now I know it is about connection." Nara smiled. "The sky always teaches that lesson." He looked at her and then at Ikran resting nearby. "Will you fly with me again tomorrow?" She nodded. "Yes, until the sky ends." The wind carried their laughter across the valley. The clouds below glowed with faint starlight, and the Ikrans lifted their heads as if listening. From the distance, the human ship sent one final signal to the council. The report was short and clear. The experiment was successful. The human and Vyloran bonds are real. Trust achieved. High above, the stars shimmered brighter, as if the universe itself approved. The story that had begun as a challenge between a human pilot and a proud alien rider had ended as proof that hearts could understand what words could not.